Hi. So I'm doing yard work today. But I wanted to talk to you about um, my experience. This is a job application, and you are the boss, and so you, I'm sure, want to know what qualifies me to be on the city council. Um, so I've been working since I was 14. I worked at summer camp as a camp counselor. I worked, started out in the kitchen, I moved to the waterfront, and then from the waterfront, I went to the climbing tower. Um, from there, I went to the nature lodge. Um, so, in all of those, I've taught merit badges. So, I was required to fill out reports on the steps that the scouts needed to take to get the merit badge, and I would have to post it every day at the end of class in the Scoutmaster Lodge so that they could see how the progress is going and whatnot. So I was responsible for reporting to the Scoutmasters every day in paper format, posting it on the wall. So I did that from since I was 14. I've been doing things like that. So I'm good with accountability and reporting to people about the progress of the day. So then after that, I worked at a daycare program that was I was a lifeguard, and we traveled, and my job was literally just a lifeguard, and so just kept people alive, made sure they didn't drown. But I also took care of their mental health. I was in the camp counselor mode. I had experience as camp counselor, so I was doing good with helping kids that were struggling at home and helping them get along. I had a set of twins that were just adorable kids, and help them just kind of get along better. So I'm a very personable person. So then after high school, and then while I was in high school, I worked at a swimming pool. So I was a lifeguard all through high school. Then after high school, I got a job in sales at a flooring company. My mom was the manager, so she hired me to work there. I still had to fill out the application and everything, but she knew I'd make it to work on time, because she'd be driving me. So it was a good deal. I worked there for a while, not very long, but the company was about to go under, and I saw it happening, so I got out before that happened, because I really don't like lying to people, and that's what they wanted us to do. The carpets weren't getting there on time because they weren't paying the bills that they had, so the companies like Mohawk and I forget the other brands of carpets right now, not really relevant to my life anymore, but so they didn't have those accounts all up to date, so they weren't getting all of their orders, and we were expected to tell the customers that there was just an issue in the shipping or something, there was a delay, it was on back order or something. Not tell them the truth. I didn't like that. I don't like being dishonest, and so I left because I didn't want to lie to people. And one of those people was actually my old teacher, and so I was really uncomfortable being put on the spot like that. So I didn't stay long, but shortly after I left, they went under anyway, so my mom had to find a new job too. But so after that, I had graduated high school and I worked just kind of odd jobs. I worked at the college. I was a model for an art class. That was really fun. I actually really liked that. It was empowering, I guess. And then what else did I do then? I don't remember before the military what I did. I delivered newspapers. So I got up early in the morning and delivered newspapers. And then I decided to join the military. My whole family, pretty much. We have a very rich history of military service, and so it was just kind of a no-brainer that I would be one to follow in those footsteps. Both my grandfathers were in the military, my brother, my dad, my uncles, one of my aunts, cousins. We have a large family. My dad's one of 9, my mom's one of 4, and like 80% of the family, I think, from that generation had served in the military. So it was, pretty easy for me to just say, okay, let's do it. And when I told my mom that I had joined the military, she's like, oh, well, I'm surprised. I guess you would have gone Coast Guard. And instead of like, oh my gosh, you're joining the military, that's so awful, she's like, oh, you didn't join the Coast Guard? So I thought that was kind of funny. But just because I like being on the water and things like that. So anyways, pulling out all this grass. But so then so I joined the military. I went in as an E1. I ended my career as an E4. So there's not very much progression, but that's okay. I don't like running, so I didn't get promoted as quickly as others because my PT scores weren't great. And so that's okay. If I would have had more support at home to be able to go work out without children being around my ankles all the time, I probably would have done better. Once I started passing my PT tests, my unit was all about sending me to schools. Like, you can't go to a school if you don't have a passing PT test. And it's a physical training test. And so once I had passed them, I started going to a bunch of schools. And they weren't just schools for decorating your uniform, like Airborne and things like that. I forget the other one. That's not important. I didn't go. But so instead, they sent me to classes to further the unit. So I went to field sanitation. I got another job identifier, so I was originally in as a truck driver, and then once I had a good passing PT test, I was sent to human resources, so I had to go to Texas for human resources class, and then I went to warrior leadership class, which is a class you need to get your E5. And then so I had that for a long time before, and I never even got my E5. It got renamed before I even got out, and whatever, so the class did. So anyways, I went to WLC. And I was at Fort Lewis, and then I came back to Fort Lewis for field sanitation, which I already said. They had me go to a command post of the future training. A couple of those. So one was the setting up the command post, and the other one was was how to use all the electronics, like the screens and stuff. So there'd be sensors in the cars, or in the Humvees, And so they would talk to the computer, and you could see in real time on the screen what was happening with your convoys. And you could kind of guesstimate on where the enemies were, and just kind of like, you know, instead of those old-timey sand tables for where the enemy is going to strike at, we had real-time video on the screen. And so I went to a class to learn how to do all that. After that, I think I went to a couple more classes. I don't remember exactly what they were. I might be wrong, though. I went to a lot of classes. And so, yeah, they were getting ready to send us to Iraq. And so they had me go to all these classes to be kind of the one who they could rely on for the unit to run everything. And they could just like, okay, show me this. Okay, show me this. So I have experience with that. That sounds ridiculous, but so then when the unit deployed, and I got sent home for medical reasons. I was not allowed to deploy. So instead, they had, invested all that money in me, and so instead of just sitting at home finding a civilian job, they kept me on in the rears, what they call it. So I was staying at home at our home operating base in Bend, and I did the human resources for the unit while they were deployed. I did everything on this end, the stateside end. But it wasn't just human resources in general. I did a specific job. I was doing the workers' compensation, the LODs, line of duty injuries. And so I had to quickly learn all the processes required for turning in a line of duty injury packet. Like, it was a huge packet, and you had to have all these forms. You had to have your form for your HIPAA laws. The soldiers had to fill that out. You had to have documentation from the doctors. You had to have documentation from the medics if they had it. There's a whole bunch of stuff you had to fill out. You had to fill out exactly what happened. You had to get a sworn statement from the soldier about what happened, and then you had to send that in to the state level, and they would review it. They would decide whether or not it actually happened in the line of duty, and whether or not the military was going to pay for the damages of what happened. So I had to do that, which I actually really loved. I love taking care of people, and so it was a really nice job. So one of the guys, we were playing basketball and at the armory, and he ended up hitting his head on the cement wall, or maybe it was the wall and the floor, or just the floor. I don't remember. We were playing basketball. He hit his head really bad. He got an instant concussion. Was throwing up. We had to take him to the hospital. So I drove him, and I was able to take him to the hospital, get the doctor's signature on all the paperwork that was necessary right then and there. And so he didn't have any issues in the future with getting this covered, because it happened in the line of duty. Like, yeah, sure, we were playing basketball, but he was still on orders. It was a job, workplace injury, so it was taken care of. So I was really good at my job. It was to the point to where all the other people in the office, they would spend their drill weekends, which is the weekends when the soldiers are actually there, they would spend their weekends doing their day job, and I hated that. I didn't want to spend my whole weekend sitting in front of a computer when I could have been spending time with the people I serve with, doing something more interesting. And so I made sure before drill weekend came But I would have all of my paperwork ready to go. So at the very beginning, before formation even got there, I would go and hunt down the soldiers that I needed stuff from, signatures from, and I would get their signatures, put them on my desk so I could process the paperwork on Monday. And so I was like the only person that was not stuck at my desk 100% of the time because I was being proactive. And so, and I mean, some of those people, their jobs did not allow them to really leave because they had to fill out reports during drill weekend that applied to drill weekend. So, I mean, it's not fair to say all of them, were unable to do that. But, there were people that could have left their jobs that just chose to not. They didn't want to, for some whatever reason, didn't want to be one of the Joes, So, so after that, while that was happening, so everyone was in Iraq, I also was in charge of my platoon, not just my squad. So I'd always been like in charge of a squad, which is 4 or 5 people. While everyone was deployed, we had like maybe 8 people at that point in time in our platoon that didn't deploy. And people that didn't deploy generally either just joined and didn't, come out of training in time to go on the deployment, or they were medically unable to deploy. And so those were the people that I was in charge of, and I was medically unable to deploy as well. So I got put in charge of the platoon because our platoon sergeant was doing so many other things. He's like, here, you know what, you just take charge of this. I can't do it right now. I gotta focus on other things. So I was the acting platoon sergeant for a while, for a couple months at least. And the whole time I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any accountability issues. I'm generally a good leader, and I hate saying that because it feels like I'm like stroking my own ego, but that's not the case in this. Like, if I were a bad leader, I think I would hope I'd be willing to say that I was not good at it, and I wouldn't be trying to take another leadership position. But so I'm generally good at leading and listening to people. And I have a lot of experience in listening to other people and what they have to say, and taking what they say and using